In this lesson, we're going to talk about how do we display a table in Mithril Js. Now, we're going to do this by using CodePen because we don't need a fancy editor or anything like that. In fact, we're going to be using everything on a purely client-side basis, which is a theme for this series. So to start off with, this is a brand new CodePen session. There's nothing in this session. There's no assets or anything that's been loaded. Now let's start off by adding Mithril Js. So we can do that by going to the JS window, and then we can just type in Mithril. Okay, and then we'll have Mithril added. So there we go. Now to then begin to add the table, let's firstly think about how we display a table without Mithril Js, because that's important as well. In this particular case, the semantics I'm going to use is I'm just going to do everything in JavaScript to start off with. So I'm going to define two variables. We have a data column, which is an array of columns, and we also have some data. So what we want to display is we want to display something which looks like this. We want column 1, column 2, and then we want 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Now we want to encapsulate all of this in a function which we can then call in Mithril Js, so that when the variables change, this data can also change with it, and then the table will change with it as well. So that's the goal of what we want to do. So to start off with, how might we do that? So I'm just going to show you the code, and then I'll walk through it. Okay. So this is the code to do it. We have a display data function, and what it does is it creates a new element that is part of the document. So I've hard-coded a whole bunch of things here, but we'll talk about how this works. So the first thing is we want to create a table element, because that is what displays the table, and in the table we have table headings and also rows and also cells, which is the semantics which are used in HTML. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create the columns for the table, which we do by just looping through the data columns and then creating a table heading, which is what these tags are, around a particular value for the table. So in this case, just in case you wanted to do something fancy like insert table headings in the middle of a table for whatever reason, we do a check to always append at the bottom of the table, just like so. Then the next thing is we loop through the data that we have here, and we insert things row by row, and we just insert things one at a time. So and it works in very much the same way. The only difference is that now we can use the new cell and text content rather than the outer HTML. So in this way, it will actually generate a table for you. Okay, so let's go and make sure that this code works. We'll do that by first creating a element that is called table. So let's do this. And what will happen is this function, when run, will create a new table that is attached to this particular element. So let's do that as well. Display data, and now hopefully we should see a table. And let's close that. There we go. So we can see that we have our table, and if we alter any of the data up here, it will immediately be reflected when the page loads, which is a key importance. So if I do that, and then the pen gets rebuilt, you can see that now there's a 4 factorial or 4 exclamation mark. So that's the first step in terms of how we can display a table. In the next lesson, we'll talk about how we can integrate this with Mithril Js so that we get something a little bit more dynamic.